Live from your local election headquarters at the 22 News Broadcast Center, this is a Springfield Mayoral Forum. And now, here's Rich Teddemer.
Good morning and welcome to a special Your Election Headquarters presentation. I am Rich Teddemer. Today, 22 News is hosting a forum among the candidates running in the preliminary election for Mayor of Springfield. There are 5 candidates on the ballot. The preliminary election will narrow down that field of candidates from 5 to 2 for the November general election. And today we're joined by Dr. David Champy, City Councilor Justin Hurst, City Councilor Jesse Letterman, and State Representative Orlando Ramos. They are challenging Mayor Dominic Sarno, who is running for re-election. Mayor Sarno is not here due to a scheduling conflict, and he released a statement to 22 News, and I'll read that for you now. I want to thank WWLP TV 22 News for conducting this forum for the residents of Springfield. Please accept my apologies for not being in attendance with you today, as I had a prior long-standing commitment to attend the historic dedication ceremony for our new DeBerry Swan School. This new $95 million state-of-the-art school is important for our students, families, and our Mason Square neighborhood, as it replaces the 125-year-old Homer Street School and the 72-year-old DeBerry School. In addition, it will provide our students with all the tools necessary to receive a Class A education. I'm running for re-election because there's still much more work to be done. Our war on crime will continue to be our #1 priority, and we will continue to build upon our $5 billion of economic development projects that have created thousands of jobs while also managing your tax dollars in a fiscally responsible way. I respectfully ask for your vote on September 12th. Thank you. That statement is from Mayor Dominic Sarno. We now turn to our opening statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make his opening statement, and we start with Dr. David Champy. Doctor?
Thank you, Rich, and thank you for everyone being here today. Quality of life issues is really the #1 goal that I have if elected mayor in Springfield. Quality of life has been a real big, difficult problem for a lot of people here in the city, and we have to get a handle on poverty, mental illness, and drug issues, because these are the main drivers for crime in our city, and our crime rates have been higher than the state and national average for many, many years. So in order to drive those crime rates down to attract new economic investment in the city, major capital investment in the city, we have to get those the crime rates down. To do this, we need to have new holistic life intervening policies in place. We also need to have new economic engines to bring about reductions in poverty, and we also need to have new programs in place to treat mental illness.
Time is up, Dr. Champy. City Councilor Justin Hurst, you have 1 minute for an opening statement.
Thank you, Rich. My name is Justin Hurst, and I'm running for Mayor of Springfield. I'm running to ensure a first-class education for all of our students. I'm running to make sure that we have a police commission that is empowered and able to act free from political interference. I'm running for Mayor of Springfield to ensure that municipal contracts go to small businesses so that those businesses can in turn grow to medium and large-sized businesses. I am running for Mayor of Springfield to ensure that the residency laws on the books are actually enforced, and so that millions of dollars do not leave our city on a yearly basis. I am running for Mayor of Springfield to make sure that we have a comprehensive plan to address gun violence here in the city of Springfield. I'm running for Mayor of Springfield to ensure that our parks are clean and that we take pride in our city. I'm running for Mayor of Springfield because we know that for a long time, so many people have been left out of the city of Springfield and of government. And so we need to ensure a first-class 21st century Springfield for all of our residents.
City Councilor Jesse Letterman, you have 1 minute for an opening statement.
Thank you very much, Rich. It's great to be here at 22 News, and thank you to my colleagues for showing up this morning. Thank you to the viewers who are watching at home. My name is Jesse Letterman. I'm honored to serve as the president of the Springfield City Council, and I've dedicated my entire life to serving the community that raised me. Whether it was as a community organizer working to clean up our air quality and lower asthma rates in Springfield, as a higher education advisor working with non-traditional students to finish their degrees at UMass Amherst, or on the Springfield City Council, where you elected me in 2017. And listen, we've won some big victories together on the Springfield City Council. We stopped the biomass waste incinerator. We restored the Board of Police police commissioners. We created the Springfield Housing Trust Fund. We've worked to make local government work better. But for all those victories, our city is still leaving too many people behind and still falling behind on too many important issues. I'm running for mayor to bring a fresh perspective to the challenges our city faces. I have a record to prove I can get it done, and I look forward to sharing that vision today.
State Representative Orlando Ramos, you have 1 minute for an opening statement.
I'm State Representative Orlando Ramos, born and raised here in the city of Springfield, graduated from Putnam High School. I'm a 21-year member of the Carpenters Union. I served 4 terms on the city council, including 2 terms as council president, where I lowered property taxes for seniors, got illegal dirt bikes off the streets, and led the charge to bring police body cameras to our city. As state representative, I authored legislation to stop the biomass plant. I brought back millions of dollars for the city of Springfield and authored legislation to include small businesses in sports wagering. I'm running for mayor because I don't believe anybody should be mayor for 20 years. And our city has a lot of needs that are not being addressed, including public safety and affordability, which are my top 2 priorities, because I believe that everyone deserves to live in a safe city, and we all deserve to be able to afford to live with dignity. Thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to sharing more about my vision for Springfield.
Thank you, gentlemen. We now move on to our question and answer portion of the program. I'll ask each candidate the same question, and each candidate will then have 1 minute to respond. There's no time set, though, for rebuttal. Let's get to the first question, which Justin Hurst will answer first. Springfield has seen a record number of homicides this year, and violent crime is a concern on the minds of many residents of the city. What do you think is causing this recent spike in crime? And if elected, what would you do as mayor to make sure people feel their lives, homes, and families are protected?
What is occurring right now in the city of Springfield is the culmination of 16 years of a lack of investment in our neighborhoods, as well as a lack of investment in our young people. As mayor of Springfield, I will come to the table with a comprehensive plan, which currently isn't the case right now. As part of that plan, there will be 3 components. There will be one, which is a police component, and in that police component, we'll make sure we have a full complement of police officers, as right now we are 70 police officers short. In addition to that, we'll make sure that we have a police officer serving on every state and federal task force addressing gang, guns, and drugs here in the city of Springfield, which currently is not occurring. And then we'll make sure that our specialized units are working past 12 a.m. Or past midnight, and then are also working on the weekends. In addition to that, we'll work with our community organizations who are on the ground doing the work, and then we'll also assess whether they are actually getting the results that we need them to have. And then finally, there will be a component in which we talk to and have conversations with the gang members themselves to find out the root causes of what is happening in the city of Springfield and what we can do to support them.
Jesse Letterman, your answer to that first question.
If we are going to solve the trauma that is continuing to impact neighborhoods across the city of Springfield, we have to address the root causes of crime and violence. And this administration's failure to do so is the reason why we are seeing such a spike this year. But let's look at the fact that this is not unique just to the city of Springfield. We can be a leader in solving it. There's a really great article the other day in the paper. I encourage people to take a look at it. It was about the fact that even though the Springfield Police Department worked hard last year and took a record number of guns off the street, the proliferation of guns in our community means that even when we take a gun off the street, individuals are still able to get access to them. And that means if we're going to solve crime and violence in Springfield, we have to focus at the individual level. My plan, Hub and Core, focuses on strategic information gathering, information sharing, and execution of that information between the police and human service agencies. It allows us to go after and contact individuals before they are going to be the victim of crime and violence or the perpetrator of crime and violence. The only way we will solve this problem is by taking a new approach, and that's my plan.
Orlando Ramos, your answer to that first question, please.
Public safety is my number 1 priority. You know, right now, the city of Springfield has a record number of homicides, 26, which is much more than the record set back in 2013. And we're on pace for 38 murders this year. And so we need to do better. The current mayor does not have a plan for public safety in the city of Springfield. All he can do is blame judges, and blaming judges is not going to make our community any safer. I have a plan to make the city of Springfield safer today and prevent crime tomorrow. By doing so, by bringing back community policing, my number 1 priority, bring back community policing. Community policing works. It's a model that's been proven to work right here in the city of Springfield for many years. We knew the officers that were patrolling our neighborhoods, and they knew us, and we felt comfortable sharing information with those officers. So community policing, number 1. I want to take guns off the streets by creating a gun court in the city to get these criminals off the streets a lot faster and streamline gun cases. Police substations in high crime areas. Partner with the ATF to get guns off the streets. Invest in economic development and invest in mental health to address the mental health crisis going on in our community.
Dr. Champy, your answer to that question, please.
You know, poverty and mental illness, people that suffer from behavioral health issues, it results in human suffering. And when people suffer, many end up reaching for drugs to kill the suffering that they experience. So that toxic mix creates drug supply, people to take drugs, and also the violence and the gangs come in because they supply most of the drugs. So if we're going to really tackle the social ills in our city that results in crime, what we need to do is we need to find new programs, life intervention issues. We can't be having people treated for drugs and then they go back into the same community that influenced their problems to begin with. We need to get them into different locations where they'll have a fighting chance and a smooth landing. So the fighting poverty, fighting mental illness are the key components to reducing crime in our city.
Jesse Letterman, you get the next question first. The Springfield Police Department has been the subject of a consent decree for the Justice Department after an investigation into excessive force used by members of the Narcotics Bureau. That bureau no longer exists. And Springfield Police Superintendent Cheryl Clapprood says reforms are being implemented. What do you think of the steps that have been taken so far? And do you think more needs to be done to reform the city's police department?
We have a great deal of work to do here in the city of Springfield to make sure that we have the best police department in the United States for the benefit of the residents of the city of Springfield and in service also to the officers that protect and serve our community. One of the things that has greatly disturbed me throughout my time on the city council is this administration's systemic disempowerment of the Springfield Police Commission. Now, long before the DOJ came to Springfield with a consent decree, myself and members of the city council were pushing for increased civilian oversight and a fair process to bring justice around police community relations. I pushed for accreditation and development of new policies in the police department long before the consent decree came down to require those. And I think the fact that the administration continued to ignore it is what has put us in this position, which is costing the city of Springfield and taxpayers quite a bit of money. So we need to make sure that we have a police commission that is professional, diverse, established, and trusted by members of the community and members of the police force. As mayor, I'll stop trying to disempower the police commission and actually support it.
Orlando Ramos, your answer, please.
Well, first we have to remember that the changes that have been made recently in the police department were not made voluntarily. They were made because the federal government forced the city of Springfield to make those changes. And if you remember back when I was on the city council, the three of us actually stood in front of City Hall the day after, or a few days after the George Floyd incident, and we laid out a plan as to what changes needed to be made to the use of force policy for the Springfield Police Department. And it wasn't until the federal government came into the city of Springfield with a consent decree with those same recommendations that the city of Springfield finally decided to implement those changes. So more needs to be done. We have to sue this mayor in order to bring a police commission to the city of Springfield. We should not have to sue the mayor to follow the law that the city council passes. And so we have to do better. We have a lot of good men and women in our police department that work very hard to keep our community safe. We have to be able to improve police-community relations in our city and show the city of Springfield that we have police officers that we can be proud of.
Dr. Champy, your answer, please.
Yes. Yeah, community perception of our local law enforcement is really, really important and key here. We need to be able to establish genuine partnerships between law enforcement here in the city as well as within the community itself. And to do that, we need to have increased community policing, but we need to be able to establish those relationships in ways that incentivize individuals to report crimes when they see them happen so we can get bad actors off the streets. But also there's a prevention piece to this also, and we need to be mindful of that. Some of the work that needs to be done will involve workshops, training in terms of behavioral health responses, de-escalation. All of that needs to be streamlined into police operations on the streets of the city.
Justin Hurst, your answer.
Thank you. It's really simple for me. It starts at the top. We need, number one, a new mayor. Number two, we need a new police chief. We need a national search that involves the community. And we need someone who is reflective of the community that they serve. In addition, we can't go kicking and screaming to implement the consent decree that is levied upon us by the Department of Justice. If there are measures in the consent decree that the DOJ seems to think that we should follow, we ought to follow those with a level of fidelity that I am not currently seeing. In addition to that, we need to empower our police commission. The idea that our police commission does not have all of the powers that the city council fought for when we took it all the way up to the Supreme Judicial Court is problematic, and it's setting our police commission up to fail. I will empower the police commission and make sure they have the ability to hire, fire, discipline, and promote. And then we need to make sure that our officers are well trained in the areas of implicit bias as well as cultural sensitivity. And then we need to make sure that they get peer support for one another.
State Representative Orlando Ramos, you get to answer this next question first. A growing number of communities nationwide have been turning towards alternatives to traditional police responses, particularly when it comes to calls involving mental health. Amherst Crest Department and Northampton's Department of Community Care are two local examples. Would you favor Springfield establishing an alternative type of response for some emergency calls? And if so, would you be willing to divert funding from the police department to pay for it?
I think the first part of your question, I think that's an initiative that is worth exploring. You know, the COVID-19 pandemic really highlighted the need for more mental health services and the number of people that are struggling with mental health in our communities. So I think we need to empower those organizations that are working directly with people who are in need of mental health services. The second part of your question, I don't want it to be misconstrued into this idea that we would be defunding the police. I think there are many ways that we can fund these initiatives without taking away from the current budget for the police department. We need to look at state grants and federal grants and see how we can utilize those to bring some sort of a plan to partner with these mental health service agencies. The other thing is important to highlight is that it's important to have members of the police department that know and understand our community and know the people in our community. Again, community policing is very important because that will help police officers identify whether or not someone is having a mental health crisis if they're acting differently than they normally would.
Dr. Ciampi, your answer, please.
Yes, a lot of the interpersonal conflict that takes place is rooted in mental health issues. And so we really do need to have people that are trained to work in concert with the police. So when crisis calls come in through 911, we have teams that are been trained in crisis intervention and de-escalation techniques to be able to go in to de-escalate people. A lot of times in domestic crisis situations, when police go in, they actually escalate the problems, and the aggressiveness turns away from the partner that's the target of the conflict to the police themselves. So we really need to rethink this and get individuals that are trained in behavioral health, de-escalation, crisis intervention into these environments.
Justin Hirsch, your answer,
Can
please.
you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah,
And you can take away from my
Yep, that's
minute.
okay. Would you favor Springfield establishing an alternative type of response for some emergency calls? And if so, would you be willing to divert funding from the police department?
So my answer is yes, absolutely, to the first part of your question. We need to put our officers in a position to be successful. We know oftentimes that they're responding to calls that they just aren't capable or trained of. We all are trained to actually deal with. We know that we're asking the world of our officers, and they're doing the best job that they can possibly do. But in the event that there's a way in which we can put our officers in a position to be successful in concert with other individuals and professionals in particular fields to address the issues of our residents, then the answer is absolutely. In terms of funding, you know, we ought to look for all opportunities in which we can fund our police department and additional opportunities to make programs like you just said come to fruition. One thing that we can do is audit every department in the city of Springfield and find money that is being fraudulently spent and misused. And I'm sure we'll get some additional funding to fund programs like this if we do that.
Jesse Letterman, your answer, please.
I think that it's about having a comprehensive public safety and community well-being approach. We know that in the city of Springfield and across our country, we have a mental health crisis. We have a lack of services when it comes to treating that crisis, and the same when it comes to addiction. And we know that our officers, as first responders, are often responding to situations that they have shared with us. They feel they are not properly in control, very trained to do. And so right now we have a small program, a co-response program that allows a clinician to respond with an officer to certain circumstances. That program is not nearly large enough, and it needs to be expanded. As mayor, I will expand it. And it also speaks to my Hub and Core initiative, the Hub and Core program that I've fought for on the city council, and one that I will implement completely if elected mayor, because it's about that individual understanding. We know many calls that come in are individuals who are known to first responders. We have an idea of some of the challenges they face, and we need to make sure that when we respond to that call, we are doing so with the proper individual, whether that is a police officer, a clinician, or another type of first responder.
Dr. Champion, you get to answer this next question first. Property values have been increasing all across Massachusetts, including Springfield. That increase in property values has meant an increase in property taxes for most city residents, even though tax rates have actually gone down recently. Can anything be done to reduce property taxes for residents and businesses? And if so, how would you do so as mayor?
Yeah. Well, we need a game changer in the city. I propose a carnival event once in a year in the summer months, particularly in June and July, about 30 days of carnival. And that would bring in a great deal amount of money. As mayor, I would have a carnival commission in the city that would oversee the logistics and the planning, the venue for such an event. The money that would be coming in would be quite substantial. I know the folks in Rio de Janeiro, and there has been a proposal to declare Springfield the North American gateway city for Rio de Janeiro's carnival. That would bring in a lot of money. That would put Springfield on the international tourist map, bring a lot of money in. But we have to get a handle on crime as well. The money coming into the city, that could certainly help reduce property taxes in the city.
Justin Hirsch, your answer, please.
Taxes have gone up 8 out of the last 8 straight years, and they're getting ready to go up 9 out of the last 9 straight years. We know we have a number of seniors who are on fixed incomes and who are struggling to meet their everyday needs. And so we need to do something as it relates to taxes, and the answer is not to tell folks year after year that their taxes are going to go down only for them to go up. I know individuals had high hopes when MGM came into the city of Springfield, and they have contributed $100 million towards the city of Springfield's general fund. And the idea that that money is not going to reduce taxes, which is what MGM said, which is what the mayor said when they ultimately came to the city of Springfield, are promises broke. And from my standpoint, we also need to make sure that that Eversource money, $40 million, was supposed to go towards taxes that the taxpayers paid when Eversource was in a current lawsuit, when they didn't pay. And so that $40 million needs to be reinvested into the tax base so that residents see their taxes go down.
Jesse Litterman, your answer, please.
We need to focus on affordability across the board for Springfield residents, homeowners, and renters alike. And I think one of the challenges that exists, the disconnect, is that this administration has not been honest with the people of Springfield about the state of our budget. We know that non-discretionary budget items, items that must be paid or else we declare bankruptcy, are increasing by millions of dollars every single year in the city of Springfield. And that is why the administration has sought the type of revenue that they had and not kept those promises about taxes going down. I have an approach that I believe will allow us to stabilize and bring relief to property taxpayers in the city of Springfield. It focuses on a number of components. The first component is growing our economy, bringing new industry to the city of Springfield, growing our corporate tax rate so that we can provide relief on the residential side. It also focuses on looking at the exemptions that exist for income eligible seniors. We know that right now the requirements for that exemption is too high, and we need to work with the state to lower it. We also need to look at targeted relief for low income homeowners, and we need to make sure that we are honest with our residents about the budget moving forward.
Orlando Ramos, your answer, please.
Rich, property taxes have gone up 24% over the past 4 years in the city of Springfield. Water and sewer has gone up 24% over the past 4 years in the city. And I'm pretty certain that for those people who are watching at home, their salaries and their Social Security has not gone up 24% over the past 4 years. And so we need to do more to make it affordable for seniors and people living on a fixed income to be able to afford their property taxes in the city. And I don't believe that this mayor is doing whatever he can to lower property taxes. In addition to what was said earlier, we are on the hook for the largest property tax increase in the history of the city of Springfield come January because of this budget that the mayor just proposed. 3 times what the increase was last year. The average tax bill went up by $200. We're on the hook for a triple increase for next year if we don't do something about it because of the increase in the tax levy. And so on day one as mayor, what I will do is I will allocate money from the general fund to go towards the tax levy in order to lower the historic increase that we're going to be facing come January.
Justin Hirsch, you get to answer this next question first. There is a housing crisis in Massachusetts and indeed all over the country. Housing costs are up and the supply of new housing, particularly affordable housing, remains low. What are your thoughts on the current quality and quantity of affordable housing in the city? And as mayor, what would you do to ensure that city residents have good quality homes?
No, absolutely. First of all, we need to focus on keeping our residents in their homes. And if their taxes continue to go up year after year, you're going to find more people on the outside looking in, which is unfortunate. In addition to that, we need to make sure that we have a competent building department and a competent building commissioner who lives in the city of Springfield. Currently, right now, that is not the case. I've heard from a number of developers, those individuals who are looking to build homes, as well as those individuals who are looking to rehab apartment buildings. And their biggest concern is that it's taking months for them to get their permits, and it's taking months for them to get their inspections. And so we know that we have a housing crisis here in the city of Springfield. We also know that we have thousands of dilapidated units, and we need to make sure that we have a full complement of code enforcement officers as well as attorneys to get these landlords in court immediately and to get these condemned properties back on the roll so that we can now get a fair understanding as to where we're at with respect to housing.
Jesse Letterman.
I've been sounding the alarm about our housing situation in the city of Springfield since I was elected in 2017, and we know that we are 11,000 units short in our region of housing that is needed for our population. And if you look at affordable housing, we are actually 17,000 units short. As a city councilor, I created the Springfield Housing Trust Fund. That is an aggregator that can bring the right stakeholders to the table, that can bring funds from the state and federal government, but we haven't seen any funding for it come from this administration to get it started. And as a matter of fact, the funding that I secured working with State Senator Adam Gomez was returned by this administration because they couldn't get a plan together. We can't keep waiting for crisis to hit our city to make that plan. As mayor, I will fund the Springfield Housing Trust Fund. We will build a housing production plan, and we will end piecemeal housing development, instead working with developers to bring forward housing on a concrete basis across the city of Springfield.
Orlando.
The reason why we're even having this conversation is because of a simple term called supply and demand. There isn't enough supply to meet the demand for housing, and whenever that happens, the consumer pays more for the product. And so the first thing that we need to do is we have to address the supply, the lack of supply in the city of Springfield. And we can do that by investing in initiatives such as HDIP, Housing Development Incentive Program. As a state representative, I voted just recently to increase the amount of HDIP money that we allocate every year. We actually tripled it from $10 million a year to $30 million a year with a one-time increase of $57 million. That means that there are going to be more developers looking to develop more property here in the city of Springfield seeking HDIP credits, which will be either approved or denied by the next mayor. We need to invest more in housing ownership. We need to do more to make it easier for people to become homeowners in the city of Springfield and give more money towards first-time home buyers programs in the city as well.
Dr. Champy?
Living conditions, the quality of the living conditions are really, really important. A lot of individuals that I work with are homeless, or they're struggling with the risk of becoming homeless. So what we need to do is we need to be able to develop a lot of buildings that are not being occupied right now, that are vacant. And one way to do it is to work with our state and federal stakeholders to develop sustainable, eco-friendly, non-inflationary energy buildings so that individuals that are really struggling economically will have a safe place to live, and that will bring down their stress levels where they can really stand up on their own 2 feet and be productive citizens in our city.
Okay, gentlemen, we reached the halfway point of today's forum. We're going to take a short break right now, and after that, we'll have more questions and answers for the candidates running for mayor of Springfield. You're watching a special Your Election Headquarters presentation right here on 22 News.
watching a Springfield Mayoral Forum. Here's Rich Teddemer.
Welcome back. Today, 22 News hosting a forum among the candidates running for mayor of Springfield. We're joined by Dr. David Ciampi, City Councilor Justin Hurst, City Councilor Jesse Lederman, and State Representative Orlando Ramos. And we continue with the questions for the candidates. And Jesse Lederman, you get to answer this next question first. Governor Healy has declared a state of emergency as an increasing number of migrants continue to arrive in Massachusetts, and she is asking cities and towns across the state to provide help in finding shelter for them. Would you support housing migrants at hotels in the city of Springfield or at other facilities in the city? Why or why not?
We need to have a strong working relationship with our state and federal government, and as mayor, that's something that I will prioritize. I think it especially comes into play when we encounter challenges like this, and certainly it's important for our entire Commonwealth to do its part. So we have to make sure that we aren't concentrating individuals in strictly urban areas like the city of Springfield, but we also have to step up and make a plan with the state and federal administration. That plan must include the proper resources coming to our community to make sure that we are able to welcome new arrivals, and we also want to understand certainly that these are individuals who are seeking the American dream, people that are seeking the same American dream that many individuals have come to the city of Springfield, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the United States of America to seek. And we have a worthy history of that. We need to make sure that we live up to that, but we also won't be doing it at the expense of the taxpayers of the city of Springfield. We need to make sure those resources come from the federal and state government.
Orlando Ramos?
We tried housing homeless people in hotels years ago, and it was a disastrous program. It didn't work. And so I'm not certain that that is the answer. I do think that we need to do our part as the city of Springfield, as the largest city in western Massachusetts, to help with this crisis. However, we can't be the only one. We can't take the full burden. The surrounding communities have to do their part as well. And we have to make sure that this is not an unfunded mandate like we've had in the past. If we are going to do our part, we need the help of the federal government and the state government in the form of funds. And we have to come up with a strategic plan so that we're not just housing people indefinitely, and start creating a plan that we can get people into long-term housing moving forward.
Dr. Ciampi.
We can't even take care of the people that are living on the streets right now, let alone the 70,000 people in New York City that Mayor Adams has said that they're going to have to leave the city because the city doesn't have the funding to support all the migrants that are in New York City. So those individuals are going to be heading in all directions out of New York City within the next 30 days or so. So some of them are going to be coming up this way. We'll need to have federal and state funding to be able to figure out what we're going to do with our share of migrants that are going to be coming up this way. Our city has to be compassionate and deal with individuals that have fled through persecution in other countries, but we have to take care of our own people here in our city, and that's my number one priority, and also work with the state and federal government to figure out ways that we can compassionately address those individuals that have fled their countries because their countries can't support them.
Justin Hurst.
You know, I agree with Dr. Ciampi. We need to have a loving and compassionate response from our leader. We also have to deal with the reality. I can't stay in a hotel for longer than a week, and so I can only imagine how uncomfortable it is for those individuals coming into the city of Springfield to have to stay in the hotel for as long as we've seen. What we need to do, though, is we need to identify what it is that we can do. And we can't identify what it is that we can do when we have thousands of units right here in the city of Springfield that are condemned and are not usable by those individuals who are homeless right here in the city of Springfield. And so until we really start to have a building department that is working to get housing on the rolls here in the city of Springfield, a code enforcement unit that is holding these large landlords accountable, and attorneys who are getting these large complexes in the court, whether it's through receivership or through them just doing the right thing, we won't know where we stand from a housing standpoint and what we can offer.
Justin.
Sorry.
Thank you. Orlando, you get to answer the next question first. After years of deteriorating conditions inside the existing Roderick Ireland courthouse, the state has committed to building a new courthouse for Hampden County, but the question of just where that courthouse might be located remains open. A report from the State Division of Capital Asset Management ranked the current courthouse site on State Street as the best possible location for a new building. Mayor Sarno favors a site on the city's North Riverfront, and there are several other possible locations, including sites outside the city of Springfield. Do you have a preferred location for a new courthouse, and what would you do as mayor to ensure the courthouse stays in the city?
Well, it's a good question. Of the candidates that are running for mayor, I am the only one who has had a direct impact on this report. As a member of the Bonding and Capital Asset Committee in the State House, I pushed for DCAMP to come up with a recommendation. And I actually agree with the recommendation that the current location is the best location for the new courthouse. It would mean a temporary relocation in the time that we're building the new courthouse, but that is the best solution, only because downtown, that building has been crucial to downtown and the survival of the small businesses downtown. If that building were to disappear, it would be disastrous for some of the small businesses that rely on those folks patronizing their business. And I will say this, the mayor, I'm not sure that I feel entirely comfortable with our current mayor, advocating openly for one of his biggest campaign donors to receive a multi-million-dollar contract from the state to build a courthouse in the riverfront. That is not the right location, and it's not the right process.
Dr. Ciampi.
Yeah, I hear Orlando's thoughts on this, and I'm in agreement with Orlando. However, I feel that our riverfront is one of the city's best and most important resources, so we really need to develop our riverfront. And so I think that although the mayor's biggest donor it seems kind of problematic, to say the very least, I think that we should look at this a little bit closer and come up with a better plan.
Justin Hurst, your answer, please.
The courthouse should stay right where it's at. And we've had this conversation, I've had this conversation with a number of residents. The last thing that you want to look at when you're out to dinner is individuals coming in and out on a courthouse if and when we're able to develop the riverfront. We also know that this is, after 16 years, what ultimately happens is that your circle begins to shrink in terms of those individuals that you are representing. And right now, the big developers here in the city of Springfield are being represented by Mayor Sarno at the expense of the residents here in the city of Springfield. And you're absolutely right. A courthouse on the riverfront would do nothing but pad the pockets of the Pignellis, the same way that the $6.5 million in taxpayer money padded the pockets of the Pignelli on Elm Street, which was just redeveloped. So we have to do better, and when we start talking about economic development, the courthouse in the city of Springfield is critical, and we can't lose it.
Jesse Letterman, your answer.
The Roderick Ireland Courthouse will remain in the city of Springfield, and 2 years ago I brought forward a resolution in coalition with councilors in other communities in Hampden County calling for the state to address this challenge that has really plagued the individuals who work in that courthouse and seek services and justice there for far too many years. So I'm glad that it will finally be addressed. I think that it's too early to be advocating for any one in particular site. However, what I have asked DCAMP to take a look at is sites that are around Union Station. I think it's important to spur economic development around Union Station. I've also asked them to look at possibly combining the courthouse with a new police station for the city of Springfield. We know we've had a challenge with our current station. It's stopping us from reaching accreditation and reaching modern policing standards, and that could be an opportunity. But it's also important that we make sure we look at the current courthouse site and what could be developed there. I believe if the courthouse did move, it would provide an opportunity for further economic development at that location, and that's something that we should be prioritizing as we consider the future of downtown Springfield.
Dr. Ciampi, you get to answer the next question first. Revitalizing downtown Springfield and bringing in new businesses and attractions has been a priority for city government for several decades, but downtown revitalization has sometimes brought complaints from residents of other neighborhoods feeling left out. As mayor, how would you balance building a vibrant downtown with improvements in other sections of the city?
We need to be able to deal with economic development overall. And one of the ways to do that is to bring Carnival in and to get citywide participation into activities that are going to put money into each individual's pockets through either direct work with Carnival and the restaurants and transportation and all those industries that are going to be benefiting from a surge in population, people coming into the city to spend money. So we really need to be able to get everybody on board. Everybody has something to bring to the table in terms of improving the economic well-being of the city. And so my whole idea as being mayor is to bring everybody together in ways that will benefit everyone.
Justin, you get to answer the next question first. The mayor of Springfield serves as a member of the city's school committee. What do you think needs to be done to?
I think I might need to finish answering Mr.
I'm jumping
question.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I apologize. You're right. You got to answer the question about the city.
That's quite all right. We need to invest in our neighborhoods. I mean, we've done far too little for our neighborhoods, and that has been the loud and consistent cry of the residents that I've heard. They want more done, and it's unfortunate when you get $123 million in American Rescue Plan Act funding, and the first thing that you do with that money is buy millions of dollars of buildings in downtown, as opposed to reinvesting in the neighborhoods who were impacted the most by COVID. So we need to do a better job. We also need to recognize that our small businesses are the heartbeat of this city. They are our biggest employers. They are the individuals that are going to hire residents. And so we need to make sure that we're steering those contracts to our small businesses. We need to make sure that we're buying our goods and supplies, and our anchor institutions are doing the same from our small businesses, so that they in turn grow to become medium and large size businesses. And then we need to build relationships with our businesses, because they are part of a thriving neighborhood and community.
Jesse Letterman, your answer, please.
Starts with making a plan for every neighborhood and having a mayor that is committed to executing that plan, which I will be. Our city is uniquely positioned. You look at our neighborhood economic centers: Mason Square, Main Street in Indian Orchard, North Main Street in the North End, the X. These are all thriving opportunities for those communities, and we need to make sure we are dedicating funding sources and resources to actually support development there that is lifting up the individuals who are already in those communities and building wealth for their families. I have three components to this. One is a fund that I championed on the City Council that diverts a portion of cannabis tax revenue to neighborhood development projects and quality of life, a fund that this mayor has taken no time to allocate. It also takes money from the MGM reserve funds that have yet not been allocated and puts it towards economic development and neighborhood economic development centers. And finally, the creation of the first municipal bank in the United States of America. It's a process that can support development that might not otherwise happen, and has been endorsed at the state level by a number of economic development advocacy organizations.
Orlando Ramos, your answer, please.
The city of Springfield has many nicknames. Among them, we've been known as the city of first. We used to be the city of innovation, the city of manufacturing. But over the past 16 years under Mayor Sarno, we've lost that identity, and we've become known more for police scandals and crime than anything else. I'm running for mayor because I believe we can reclaim that identity as a city of first, and we can do that by investing in small businesses in every neighborhood of the city of Springfield, all 16 neighborhoods, not just downtown. The small businesses employ more people than any other employer in the city of Springfield, and this administration seems to forget that. And so I want to be the mayor for all 16 neighborhoods. I want to be the mayor for small businesses and reclaim our identity as a city of first in the city of Springfield.
All right. Now, Justin, you saved me last time. This time it is your turn. I won't crawl behind this desk.
That's all right.
Here we go. All right. The mayor of Springfield serves as a member of the city school committee. What do you think needs to be done to improve the quality of public education in the city? And as mayor, what would you do about it?
Again, it starts at the top. And one of the reasons why the mayor is not here today is because he's at a ribbon cutting for the DeBerry Swan School, which is an excellent opportunity for our community. But the reality is that the only reason why it was planned for this weekend is because the superintendent was on vacation for the first week of school. Under my administration, that will not happen. And you can only imagine what that does from a morale standpoint for the administrators that are doing everything they can to impact our young people, for our educators, and then for the young people themselves to know that the head of schools is taking a vacation at the same time that folks are supposed to be excited by the start of school. So what I will do is make sure that we are paying our teachers, make sure we are retaining our teachers and administrators and paraprofessionals professionals here in the city of Springfield. We'll also make sure we're being realistic in terms of where we're at with respect to education. Our 4 high schools are in the bottom 10% here in the city of Springfield, and we have to do better if we're going to attract businesses to the city and make sure that individuals are employable. Sorry.
Jesse Letterman, your answer, please.
Rich, let me first say you're doing a great job. And let me also say that, Justin and I were both at the Swan DeBerry ribbon cutting this morning and through Modern Conveyances made it here to the 22 News studio to speak directly with you, the voters of the city of Springfield. I will approach my role as chairman of the school committee the same way that I have approached my role on the city council and as city council president. It's about working directly with the people that are on the ground, giving more of a voice to teachers, to parents, to students in their curriculum, budget, and policy decisions. We need more autonomy in our school buildings for the individuals who really are working to build an education system that works for all of our students. We need to increase a pipeline for teachers in the city of Springfield, teachers that are invested and reflect our very diverse student population. We need a pipeline directly for Springfield Public School students that want to become teachers, and we need a pipeline for paraprofessionals who are working in our schools that want to become teachers. We also need to look at the Springfield Empowerment Zone and how we're bringing those schools back under local control of the Springfield School Committee.
Orlando Ramos, your answer, please.
We have to do better with the Springfield Public Schools. It's not just an education issue, it's also an economic development issue. If we don't have good schools, it's going to be very difficult to attract new businesses and new people to the city of Springfield. And so we have to start at the top. The current superintendent in the city of Springfield makes more money than the superintendent in Boston. The city of Springfield has a third the amount of schools and half the amount of students. And our superintendent is getting paid more than the superintendent of Boston. Meanwhile, teachers in the Springfield public school system are not getting paid enough. The Massachusetts General Court has allocated an increase of $100 million over the past 3 years to the Springfield Public Schools. $100 million increase over the past 3 years. Where is that money going? Teachers are still not getting paid enough. They're still coming out of pocket to pay for school supplies. We need to do better, and we need to take care of our educators.
Dr. Champy, your answer, please.
Yes. As mayor, I want to make sure that every student in Springfield has an opportunity to reach the maximum of their potential in life. In order to do this, we just can't think about adding, subtracting, and developing literary skills. We have to think of the totality of the individual, their emotional development, their social development. We need to be able to incorporate social, emotional, civic education into the curriculum, into the traditional academic curriculum. And we also need to have mental health services provided to those people that are coming to school from environments that are very traumatic, and we need to be able to address them so that they're able to get to a place where they can internalize information and be able to develop their skills in ways that will promote their success later in life.
Jesse Litterman, you get the next question. Small businesses from restaurants to retail stores have struggled since the COVID-19 pandemic. As mayor, what would you do to strengthen existing small businesses in the city, and what would you do to help new small businesses succeed?
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, we need to improve communication between Springfield City Hall, our economic development partners, and those very small businesses that you spoke of, Rich. One of the things we saw with the distribution of ARPA funding was a process that was laid out that was confusing, that was inaccessible, and that left way too many people out. Furthermore, they changed the rules on ARPA multiple times throughout the process, which meant individuals' applications were not being reviewed in a timely basis, or individuals thought maybe they couldn't apply when they could. So I spoke a little earlier about my economic development vision, about bringing forward funds from the Neighborhood Stabilization Fund I created as a city councilor, bringing forward funds out of the MGM reserve accounts that have not yet been spent, and looking at a municipal bank. While we do that, we have to be directly engaging those small businesses. And I want to tell you that my economic development director, when I am elected mayor, will not sit in an office on Tapley Street. They will be out in the community meeting one-on-one to provide technical assistance and resources to those businesses, as well as traveling the country to attract new businesses to the city of Springfield, selling our unique attributes.
Orlando Ramos, your answer, please.
Rich, believe it or not, the biggest employer in the city of Springfield is not Bay State Hospital, it's not Mass Mutual, it's not MGM. The biggest employer in the city of Springfield are the small businesses, the mom and pop shops. When you combine them, they employ more people than anyone else, and they've been neglected by this administration. As mayor, I will make sure that we expand the amount of grant money that we're giving to small businesses in the city, and I would also create a program to allocate funding for startup businesses, because it is my goal, again, to reclaim our identity as a city of first. So we can do that by investing in entrepreneurship, by investing in the many talented people that we have across our city, and investing in startup businesses and making it permanent as part of our yearly budget. Well, and in partnership, again, in partnership with some of the wraparound services that are provided by organizations in the city of Springfield. And that's how we reclaim our identity as the city of first.
Dr. Champion.
Yes. We need to be able to reduce our crime in the city to attract new capital investment into the city. But to answer the question, we also need to be able to tap into state and federal resources to be able to give additional relief to small businesses in the city and find ways to increase tourism so that people come into the city with additional funds to be able to spend in our local economy.
Justin Hurst, your answer.
Thank you. We need to invest in our small businesses. We know they're the heartbeat of this city. We know, like my colleague said, they're the largest employer. We also know that they hire from within the community. And so the idea that we would spend so much money, time, and attention in the downtown area on large purchases is problematic when you have so many small businesses that are suffering. There are many businesses out there that still have not received the second portion of their ARPA funding that has been misused to support large developers. So we need to invest in our small businesses. We can do that by making sure municipal contracts go to those small businesses to expand them to medium and large size businesses. We also need to make sure that we're buying our goods and supplies from these small businesses and encouraging the Mass Mutuals and Bay States to do the same. And then we have to build relationships with those small businesses so that they know they can trust us and count on us when they go to get access to capital, which is critical for them to get larger.
Orlando Ramos, you have the next chance at this question. The city of Springfield first implemented a trash fee back in 2007, and it's been controversial ever since. City residents pay a $90 annual fee for trash and recycling pickup. As mayor, would you attempt to get rid of the trash fee? And if so, how will the city make up for that lost revenue?
Yes, as mayor, I would look for ways that we can eliminate, look into the possibility of eliminating the trash fee. I was told when I was on the city council that the cost of trash removal is somewhere in the range of $5 million. The trash fee only covers $3.2 million of that $5 million. And so if we were to eliminate the trash fee, we would have to make up for $3.2 million. And we could look for ways to do that. I mean, when you look at the way that the mayor structures his budget, there's always free cash left over at the end of the year. And free cash is not free cash. Free cash is actually an overpayment of the amount of revenue that we've generated through property taxes. And so I believe that some of that money has to go back to the property, to the taxpayers. And I'm working together with one of my colleagues, actually on the city council, Ward 8 City Councilor Saila Govan, who have proposed the idea of allocating 25% of free cash at the end of the year to go back to the tax levy. And we can also use some of that free cash to reduce the trash fee or to eliminate the trash fee altogether. At the very least, I will tell you this, seniors should not have to pay for a trash fee in the city of Springfield.
Dr. Champy.
Yes, touching on Orlando's comment, I agree that senior citizens should not have to pay for the trash fees. They should be exempt. But other than that, everyone in Springfield is really struggling with higher inflationary prices for food and expenses. Everything's going up and not keeping pace with the amount of money coming in. So we really have to look at new ways on how we can reduce the expenses that everyone is being faced with here in the city, but at the same time maintaining enough money in the city to be able to pay our bills and be financially solvent. And that's really one of the primary duties as being mayor.
Justin Hurst, your answer, please.
The answer is yes. The one thing I will be with the residents of Springfield is honest with you. What I won't do is campaign on the fact that I'm going to eliminate the trash fee, get elected on the fact and the premise that you are going to eliminate the trash fee, and then 16 years later, we're still having a discussion about a trash fee. We have to do better in terms of being honest and transparent with our residents, or they will never be engaged in government, and I plan on doing that. In terms of the money, if we audit every department here in the city of Springfield, and find out the money that is being fraudulently used and misspent, I can assure you that there will be enough to cover the trash fee. In addition to that, there are a number of pockets of money that we haven't even tapped into outside of the reserves. There is marijuana money that is coming into the city of Springfield that we can use. There is also MGM money that is coming into the city of Springfield that we ought to be able to use. I will find a way.
Jesse Letterman, your answer, please.
I'll focus on relief and affordability across the board, as we spoke about earlier and during this forum. And that includes looking at how we can provide relief from fees of all kinds, as well as property tax in the city of Springfield. And we can do that by growing the economy, increasing our revenue, and being honest with the people of Springfield. But 16 years ago, we saw somebody run and say that they would eliminate the trash fee. They didn't do it because fiscally they could not. And we know that those non-discretionary items I mentioned earlier are continuing to rise by millions of dollars. And we know that solid waste costs will also increase in the future in the city of Springfield. So what I am saying is, as mayor, I will put together a budget that works for the people of Springfield, but I will not make promises based on numbers that I cannot show you today. I will work every single day to find those numbers, to provide that relief to you, but I urge the people of Springfield, don't fall for the trash fee argument alone, as we did 16 years ago. Let's make sure that we are holding our leaders accountable, and that is what I will be to you as your mayor.
That's it, gentlemen. You'll be able to stand in just a couple moments here. Stretch your legs. But that is all the time we have for today's forum. Thank you to all the candidates for participating today. If you missed any of today's program, it will be available in its entirety on our website at wwlp.com. Early voting in Springfield's preliminary election continues at City Hall through tomorrow. Of course, the polls across the city will be open this coming Tuesday, September 12th. 22 News at noon is next. I'm Rich Teddemer. Have a good day. See ya.
More people in Western Massachusetts get their news from 22 News than any other source.